I'm Jay Pryor, the owner of Custom Strings, and I'm the main luthier. I build the violins. And these are two instruments that I've made and donated to the Coeur d'Alene Orchestra as a fundraiser. I made the viola how I like a viola to sound. Well, the things that make the viola really great, which it shakes your head when you play it, and it has this big, deep, rich sound that's halfway between the volume of a cello and the brilliance of a violin. And then, of course, I tried to make them match so that when played together, one would not be eclipsed by the other and that their balances would match to each other. Making an instrument, it's not rocket science, but it's not that easy either. There's a lot of things that go into it. Obviously, first you have to start with good materials, and the materials that I used to make both of these instruments. The back and ribs are made of Canadian maple. Well, the Canadian maple that I used is probably the hardest maple that I've ever worked with. Being so hard, it really projects the sound particularly well. The Engelmann spruce that I used for the top I got from Colorado, from a supplier there who has stocks of wood that are sometimes 70, 80 years since it was cut. It's been aged. There's several pieces that go into making the instrument. Even the back on both of these are two pieces of wood, but the join between them has to be absolutely precise because any sort of imperfection in there and the wood being maybe that thick will split. A lot of people ask me if I use one-piece tops, but I don't. They're two-piece tops. It's just the join is so tight that you actually have to look at it in a variety of lights and say, oh yeah, okay, now I can see it because of the difference in the iridescence of the wood. The neck, the ribs, the back, they're all maple and they have to match. So when you buy wood, you can't just buy, oh, here's a nice chunk for a back, here's some good for the ribs, here's a nice one for the neck. They have to be in a matched set. Just the wood alone probably is in the vicinity of $200 to $300 just for the blocks of wood. And then of course it takes crazy amounts of time and patience. And my son and I calculated out how much time it takes me to put this together versus what money I get back on it. And if I was able to sell this for $5,000, which is kind of on the low end for master-made American instruments, I would be making about $7 an hour. So building an instrument is difficult often because you may not know exactly what it's going to sound like until you're done, and you just hope it sounds good. Making two instruments that are matching in sound is that much more difficult. And just like the violin, you want to hear an instrument that's brilliant and projects and soloistic. It's even more difficult for many makers to make violas that have all those same characteristics. Does the instrument balance across the range? Is the lower end vibrant and give you the sound that you want? Is the upper register shrill? Is it sweet? Does it match the mid-range? There's a lot of techniques and a lot of painstaking skill that goes into how to set the bass bar to get that effect. The arching, the type of wood that's used, the modeling. You'll notice that this viola here has a little bit deeper ribs than you'll see on many violas. And that was my attempt to get a more vibrant sound, and I'm very happy with the results that it's getting. In this particular case, it was important that this sound matched that with the violin sound, not just that one didn't eclipse the other, but that their sounds meshed well. That when you play the Symphony or Concertante, which is intended to be played as the violin and the viola together, and then individually, that it all worked together particularly well. This is probably my best viola. Every instrument I make, I can see all the flaws in it, and I can hear those things that I want to change differently. But I'm so happy with this one that I've actually been playing it a lot, and I'm going to miss it.